Good to have everybody, all of you from Asbury, Douglas, Valles, and Albertville. Hopefully, something is said tonight that you will enjoy and be able to take away and say, hey, it's been good. I've heard Thomas speak some of his stuff that's on YouTube, and I really think you will enjoy it. A little bit of his background, things like that. I can tell you, a lot of you probably just had practice a couple hours ago. Once he got into town, he went around the levee. He's already got his run in today too, so y'all are not the only ones that's practiced today. Once we get done, or once he gets done speaking tonight, he has offered a little bit of time for Q&A. So if you got any questions, don't be afraid to ask. I'll be coming around with the microphone and let you ask any question that you want. And the only reason why I've got the microphone is some of you are a little quiet, but enjoy tonight, okay? He flew all the way from McFarland, California this morning, landed in Huntsville at 2 o'clock, so he has been traveling all day long to get here just to come speak to y'all. He's not coming to speak to me, or just me, he's coming to speak to all of you. So, Mr. Raines is going to play a clip to give you, in case you've not saw the movie McFarland, to give you just a little bit of insight. Those of you that probably saw it, this will be nothing that's unfamiliar to you, and then we will turn it over to Mr. Thomas Valles as soon as the clip is done.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Am I okay down here? Is everybody okay if I just stay down here a little closer to everybody? So I appreciate the opportunity to be here. This is my first time in Alabama. I think there's before I came here, there's 13 states that I haven't been to. So now it's 12. And usually I ask for a license plate, but I have a friend of mine that's giving me one tomorrow. He lives in, I forget where he's at. He's in Centerville? Section. He's in Section. And so I'm speaking there tomorrow at their junior high school tomorrow. And so he mailed me a license plate from Alabama, and I told him I can't put it up yet because I actually have to be here physically and do something. And so now I'm official, right? So I do appreciate the opportunity to be here. Just show of hands, how many have watched the Disney movie McFarland USA? Raise your hands. That's the majority of everybody, but there's a few people, that's okay. It can be watched on Disney Plus if you have Disney Plus, and it can be streamed, I think, on Amazon. I don't know if it's like the Amazon Prime or something like that. Apple TV, I think, has it as well. It was released on Disney Plus about 3 years ago. In theaters, it was released 10 years ago in 2015. So the movie's been out for 10 years now, but it's been referred to as a timeless piece because not just cross-country teams show the movie. They do show it in the classroom sometimes for educational purposes, but for cross-country, coaches share the movie to kick off their season, or maybe they're going to their league meet or their district meet, or going to regionals, or maybe they get that berth to the state meet and they're watching it for a little bit of motivational. So I appreciate that coaches sharing it. So this movie that came out 10 years ago, I got to watch it a couple of times before it hit theaters. The second time I watched it was by far the coolest. It was a Hollywood premiere where my wife and my kids were very young at the time. All my kids are in their 20s, they're all married, and I'm going to be a grandpa in the next few months. But when the movie came out 10 years ago, my daughter was in elementary school, my middle child, my son, was in junior high, and my older, actually he was in high school, he was young in high school, and my older son was going to be a senior. He was a senior in high school when it came out in 2015. They got to walk the red carpet with me. All the actors were there, so Kevin Costner walked the red carpet. Oscar De La Hoya, the boxer, who was a gold medalist in the Olympics, walked the red carpet. Leo Manzano, you guys know Leo Manzano, he's a Texan that won a silver medal. Mev, the marathoner, walked the red carpet with us, and it was pretty cool. And it was a once-in-a-lifetime experience because I don't think I'll ever get the opportunity to walk another red carpet ever again. So that was the second time I watched it. The first time I watched it is what I call the sneak preview. Disney Studios sent a charter bus to McFarland to pick up my teammates and our spouses, Mr. and Mrs. White, because we still live in McFarland. And we took this 2-hour bus ride down Highway 99 to I-5 to Southern California to Burbank, where Disney Studios is located. And we got to watch this movie in a very small theater, probably the size of just this section right here. And we got to watch it for the first time, this movie that's 2 hours and 8 minutes long. It's supposed to be about our life story. They did interview me for the script, but I wasn't privileged to know everything they were going to share about my team and my family. That was, not that it was kept secret, I didn't inquire enough. I didn't ask enough questions, I guess. And so, as I watched it, as the movie played, there were some things in this movie that were upsetting to me. Especially some of the things they shared about my family. So even though this is a Disney movie and it's supposed to be a healthy movie, they did show some consumption of alcohol in this movie. And one of the persons that they showed drinking was my dad. I can count the number of beers that they show in the movie. He had 2 beers in his hands during this movie. And I was upset that they shared that because my dad was an alcoholic. In this movie, they showed a little bit of domestic violence in one of the families. That was my family. I was upset that they shared that. And for those of you that watched the movie, there's a very powerful scene in the movie. It's referred to as the bridge scene. You guys remember what the bridge scene was? You guys remember who it was? Who was it? It was me. That was something I had denied for decades. I had blocked it out from my mind, never ever wanted to talk about it. And when they came out in the movie, because it was shared in a LA Times article in the past, or years prior, in the late 90s, and I denied it ever happened. I denied that it ever happened when it came out in theaters. I said, no, that never happened. That's Hollywood. It's just something that I didn't want to talk about, didn't want to relive. And so when the movie came out in 2015, most of my teammates, they're educators. So when the movie was released, after we watched that sneak preview, Disney fed us, and we were outside of this patio underneath some lights, and they fed us, and we were eating, and I was vocal about it, how I felt about this movie. And my wife was with me, and she was telling me to calm down, because I said, this movie is a bunch of Hollywood. Actually, I didn't say Hollywood. I used a 2-letter acronym. And she said, Thomas, but didn't that happen with your mom and dad? And I said, yes, that happened. But didn't that happen with your sister? Oh, yeah, that happened. And then who's everybody's favorite runner in the movie? Danny Diaz. That's okay. It's okay it's not me, but Danny Diaz isn't here today. So Danny, from across the way, tells me, but Thomas, do you remember getting in this fight? I says, yeah, I remember that, Danny. Do you remember getting in this fight? I says, yeah, I remember that. So how's the movie not true? I just wasn't ready to accept that this movie is going to be released, not just worldwide, not just nationwide, but in my community, and my coworkers are going to ask me, hey, did that really happen in your life? And that's not something I wanted to deal with. So when the movie was released on Friday, come Monday, after the weekend, my teammates who were educators, they weren't going to work. They got the green light to go to Bakersfield, California, to go into a gymnasium and share with students. And I'm watching this from afar, reading articles, hearing what's they're being said about the team on social media, and they're jumping on planes going to Michigan to go speak. They would ask me to go, but I refused to go because I didn't think there was anything that I could share or that I wanted to talk about. That I didn't want them to ask me about those things about my family. I was afraid they were going to ask me about those things. So I just continued to work. I had a career for the California Department of Corrections, working in the prison system, male institutions, 22 years I did before I retired when I turned 50. There's 2 of us that went into law enforcement on this team. The rest of them, the majority of them went into education, so they're going to work until they're like 60 or 62, and that's okay. Me and one of my teammates that went into law enforcement, we retired at 50, so I retired 5 years ago. And because of the movie, I get the opportunity now to go out and speak. Something that I never would have thought I would have did when the movie first came out. Let me share a little bit about my family, my mom and dad. My dad was born in Chihuahua, Mexico, and came to the United States with no education. He worked in Mexico on a small cattle farm with my grandfather. My grandfather had a small apple orchard, and that's what he did in Chihuahua. And so my dad left that life, came to the United States to start a new life for himself. He thought that that would be to start his own American dream. And never went to school in Mexico, never went to school in the United States. So he started chasing crops throughout the United States, eventually settled in California. My mom was born in South Texas, a little small town called San Benito, Texas. It's a little border town. My grandparents had a family of 18. My mom had 18 brothers and sisters. And out of those 18, there's only 2 left. I have an uncle and an aunt left, and they both live in San Benito. I lost my mom about 15 years ago. But just hearing the stories over the years from my mom, my grandparents, they chased the crops throughout the United States. Eventually, half the family stayed in Texas, the other half settled in California. And my mom settled in California. But just hearing the stories over the years, my mom went from school to school, state to state. And there was times that kids were not nice to her. And what's that called now? Bullying. My mom was bullied in school. And so she dropped out in 6th grade. So a 6th grade education is what my mom had. My mom continued to work in the fields with my grandparents. Eventually, she got of age. She met my dad. They got married. Ended up having 5 kids. So I have 2 brothers and I have 2 sisters. So because of the lack of my parents' education for their kids was important. So what did that mean? They made sure we went to school. Why? Because they felt that we learned to read and write, learn to speak English properly, that it was going to take us out of the life that they knew, working in the fields. They didn't talk about going to college. They simply talked about maybe someday you'll graduate with a high school diploma. You get a high school diploma, maybe that'll take you out of working in the fields. Maybe you'll get a job as a supervisor. Maybe you'll have a better life than what we had and the life that we're providing for you. And so they made sure we went to school. And we usually lived out in the country. We lived in homes that belonged to the farm owner. As long as my dad agreed to work the land, we could stay in these homes out in the country. We didn't have neighbors. The bus would pick us up. Sometimes we'd miss the bus, and the principal would show up in this long yellow station wagon, and he'd take us to school. And so we moved around a lot because my dad chased the crops, and so did our family. But eventually, when I was in 4th grade, my dad accomplished the American dream. He purchased a home in McFarland, where this movie's based at. Before that, we lived out in the country, outside a little town called Delano, California, which is right next to McFarland. So I remember my dad got off from work late that afternoon. We got home, we started packing. We're gonna move. We packed late at night, moved late at night, moved in late at night. We're up late, trying to unpack. Finally, we go to bed. My dad gets up the next day, he goes to work. My mom gets us up late, and my mom walks us to school late. And I remember we walked in that front office, and my mom's she's enrolling us in school, in a new school in McFarland, Browning Grove School, on the east side of town, McFarland. And I remember my brother Leo, they said, hey, this is Leo Lionel, he's in 5th grade. And off they walk into his 5th grade class, and I was next. And I was in 4th grade. This is Thomas, he's this old. And so somebody walks me to a 4th grade classroom that day at Browning Grove School. And I remember walking into that classroom for the first time. And these kids over here, they got all excited because there's a new kid in town. And there was an empty desk there, and they go, hey, sit the new kid over here. And that was me. So I ended up sitting in that desk. Some of those boys became my friends that day, and then in the future, they continue to be my friends. One of them was David Diaz, one of my teammates. And since we got to school late, the bell rang soon after I got into class, and we were off to recess. We were out in recess, and it's a new playground to me, new friends, and I thought it was pretty cool. And then the bell rang, and 10, 15 minutes later, we had to come back to class. And then here we're in my 4th grade class, and there's a teacher on the chalkboard giving a lesson. I wasn't paying attention to that lesson. I was daydreaming. I was daydreaming about being back at recess. I had trouble concentrating in class all my life. And my ADHD was kicking off. And I'm just daydreaming, not even paying attention to this lesson. As the day goes on, it was lunchtime. It's 12 o'clock. Now we got to go to lunch. But we didn't have a dining facility on the east side of town at Browning Grove School. So they would put us on a bus, and they bus us to the west side of town, to Kern Avenue. Now, Kern Avenue was a school that was on the west side of town. There was kindergarten through junior high, 7th and 8th grade. My school was kindergarten through 6th grade. So eventually, when I got to 7th grade, I would have to take the pedestrian bridge to get to the west side of town, to get to Kern Avenue, to get to junior high. But they would bus us over, and then I remember we were in this dining facility. It was divided in half. And on this side were the kids that went to Brownie Road School. This side were the kids that went to Kern Avenue, the kids that lived on the other side of town. And I remember eating there, and then Guillermo tells me, Thomas, you see those kids over there on that side? Especially that group right there? He says, yeah, those are the West Side kids. And if we have to fight, you're going to fight one of those Corona brothers. And I'm thinking, fight? I don't want to fight. What is this? There's nothing to fight about. I didn't understand this. And we were in 4th grade. But thinking back now, that's my first recollection moving into McFarland, that our kids divided themselves because what side of the tracks they lived on. Nothing happened that day. We got back on the bus, we finished off the day, and after school, same group of boys says, hey Thomas, where are you going? I go, I'm going home. He says, don't go home, Thomas, let's go to the park, Brownie Road Park, which is attached to Brownie Road School. My older brothers will be there, they're cool, they'll be there with their homeboys. Come hang out with us. But you know what? Thomas Weiss in 4th grade, he couldn't walk to the park after school because my dad, who lived in our home at the time, he was the disciplinarian, he set the rules, and he had this rule, and it was in Spanish. No van a andar en las calles. You guys know what that means, right? Your parents ever tell you that? You're not going to be on the streets. That's what my dad said. You're not going to be on the streets. You know, even though we lived in a new community to us, a new town to us, a new home to us, he saw that there was negative things going on. He saw that there was gangs. He saw kids were smoking. He saw kids were drinking. So he wanted to protect us. So we had to come straight home, get on our chores, because we had chores growing up. You guys have chores? Yeah, you got to have chores. When you go home, you got to help your parents, because you guys are a team at home. You got to take care of the house. We had chores growing up, and after we completed our chores, we had to get on our homework. I would get home, I would knock out my chores, and then I pretended to do my homework. I pretended to do my homework because I didn't enjoy school. I didn't enjoy school because I had trouble reading. I had trouble spelling. I was way behind in school. You know, I remember when my mom would go to a parent-teacher conference, I remember them calling it flunking growing up. And you know, if you had to repeat the same grade again, you flunked. My wife's a 3rd grade teacher, and they call it detention now. But I would cry to my mom, Mom, don't sign those papers. I don't want to flunk. They make fun of the kids that flunk. I don't want to be that kid. So I got passed on from 4th grade to 5th grade to 6th grade. Now I'm in 7th grade. Now I'm taking the pedestrian bridge to get to the other side of town, to junior high, and junior high is like high school. How many classes do you guys have? 7, 8? Yeah, we had 7 periods. We showed up to our homeroom class. They took roll for like 5 minutes, and then you went off to your math class. And then like 50 minutes later, the bell would ring, and then I'd go to history. But sometime during that day, that bell would ring, and I'd go to my favorite class. What do you think that class was? PE. PE was my favorite class. Why? Because it's like recess. It's outside, and we did all the sports. Mr. White, my cross-country coach in this movie, he was my PE teacher, my 7th grade PE teacher, and we did all the sports. In the fall, we played flag football. In the winter, we did basketball, but we did it on a blacktop. It wasn't indoors. We didn't have a gymnasium at our junior high. And, but because he was a cross-country coach and a track coach, he made us do a 1-mile time run every Wednesday. And he said it was a state standard, but I don't think we had to do it every Wednesday. But we did it every Wednesday, a time mile. And he had 5 PE classes and we had 2 woodshop classes. And he would write down everybody's time on his ledger or whatever it was, and then at the end of the week, he combined the 5 classes to get the 10 fastest time boys, the 10 fastest girls, and he put them on his chalkboard in his homeroom class. And he said, at the end of the school year, if your name's on the chalkboard, I'm going to give you a T-shirt, and it's going to say Kern Avenue's Top Miners, and it was going to be free. So I wanted one of them shirts. My name wasn't at the top and it wasn't at the bottom. It was somewhere in the middle. And I wanted to make sure my name stayed on there. So I went for it every Wednesday to make sure my name stayed on there because I wanted one of them free shirts. And as the year went on, my name started climbing to the very top. Then one day, Mr. White calls me aside. Come here, Thomas, I want to talk to you. And I go, oh, shoot. And you know what? This is on a Monday. On Friday, I'd gotten a fight after school. And I remember it was Friday, so the teacher wanted to go home, so she pulled us apart, and she says, you know what, I'll deal with you guys on Monday. And so, didn't worry about it all weekend till I got to school on Monday, and I'm waiting for that phone to ring, for them to tell me to take that walk to the vice principal's office. And that phone call never came, but when he called me aside, Mr. White did, I said, oh, this is it. I'm taking that walk to the vice principal's office. But no, he said, hey, look, Thomas, listen, son, you don't know this, but I coach cross country and track at the high school level. Now, I know when you finish 7th grade, I know you're going to be working in the fields with your parents, and that's okay. But in the evening, 6 o'clock in the evening, you're home, I'll swing by with my high school team and pick you up, and if you dedicate yourself and you run all summer with my high school team, when you're in 8th grade, when you start 8th grade in the fall of '83, I will take you to some cross-country meets. And when cross-country's over, if you dedicate yourself and you continue to run during the winter to get ready for spring track, I'll take you to some track meets during the spring to get you ready for high school. And when you graduate 8th grade, during the summer, there's other track meets we can go to throughout the state. But Thomas, if you dedicate yourself and you put in the work and you excel in this sport, there's a track meet in Eugene, Oregon called the Track City Classic, held at the University of Oregon. If you commit yourself and you excel in this sport, I will take you to run in Eugene, Oregon. And he goes, would you want to go there? And I said, yes. I had no clue where Eugene was. What I heard is he was going to take me somewhere. And he says, okay, son, plan on me picking you up during the summer, but you know what? Let's deal with something else right now. What's that, Mr. White? Your grades. You're not cutting the grades. When you get to high school, you have to maintain a 2.0 GPA average to be on my roster, to get a uniform, to get on the bus to go to competitions. You have to have a 2.0 GPA average. You have a 1.7. It says you're not doing your part. It says I'm watching you. I see you walk your books home, and he saw me because I didn't have the book bag. I was just carrying them home, but I didn't open them up. So he says, Thomas, to be able to be eligible in high school, you have to have a 2.0, you have a 1.7. Let's see if we can get your grade point average to 2.0 by the time you finish 7th grade, son. It's as easy as this. When you go home, you need to open up your books, and you need to read the material. You need to take your pencil to paper, complete all your assignments in every class that gives you a homework assignment. Turn it in the next day on time. That'll bring your grades up. That'll bring your GPA up. Let's make it a goal to get a 2.0. And son, you have to stop using dyslexia as an excuse. That was the first time I ever heard that word. I knew I was a little different because I get pulled out of class to take tests by myself because I had trouble concentrating. The aides would help me complete some of my assignments, but I thought they were helping me cheat, and I thought I was okay with that. And he says, you know what? And so he was on me for the rest of the school year. He was proud of me because I was running a fast mile in PE, and he was on me about my homework, turning in my homework every single day. And he was on me, he was on my teachers, make sure he turns it in. If not, let me know. And if I missed something, he was on me. Get it in, Thomas. They're giving me the opportunity to turn it in. And by the time I finished 7th grade, I finished 7th grade with that 2.0 GPA average. Now I'm on my summer vacation. Now I'm doing what I do every summer. I'm working in the fields with my parents. And we're in the fields picking grapes, we're picking onions, we're picking string beans. We're doing this all summer. Because the more we pick, the more money we got. Well, I didn't get no money. My dad got all the money, but he paid for everything. And we'd work all summer long. And the Central Valley is hot. It's 100 degrees plus all summer long. Then we get off late in the afternoon, go home. When we got home, we still had chores to do. And so we'd have chores to do, and then we had to wash up, and then have dinner, and repeat the same thing the next day, all summer. That was my summer vacation. My dad would come home, my dad would wash up, and he would leave with his compadres, with his friends, and my dad would go do his thing. And it was my mom's responsibility that we completed our chores. My chores growing up was watering the grass when we lived in McFarland. You know what? My dad planted these little green plugs, and so my job was to water them. And it was Bermuda grass, and he's trying to get this Bermuda to cover all the dirt, right? Hey, you know what? I still live in McFarland, and I have automatic sprinklers. In fact, I was fixing one before I left on this trip today because I have automatic sprinklers. I have green grass. I want to make sure that my home is like the nicest green grass in town. But growing up, all I had was a manguera. That's what I had. I had a water hose growing up. That's all I had. So I'm out there with the water hose, watering these plugs of Bermuda, hoping that grows out to the rest of the dirt. So I'm watering it, and at 6 o'clock in the evening, it's still 100 degrees in McFarland in the summer. And I look down my street on Industrial, on the east side of town, and just like in the movie, here comes Mr. White on a bike with the pack of runners running with him. And it's boys and girls, 15, 16 kids, boys and girls. And he sees me and says, Thomas, jump in here. He's here to pick me up, just like he said. But you know what? I thought he was going to pick me up in his car or his truck, but these high school kids are already running. And you know what? I was ready to run because I didn't have a shirt on because it's hot. I had a pair of, I had a pair of jean shorts. They were one of my 7th grade pair of pants. All I did is took some scissors to them, probably a little too short, and then they had, white strings hanging all the way around, like the girls wear now. That's what I was wearing. I had no socks on. I had these these sneakers, these tennis shoes, the brand Tracks that they sold at Kmart. You older folks, you guys remember Kmart being around? So working in the fields with my parents, we would work in the fields all summer. Saturday would be our last day in the fields. On Sunday, my parents would drive us to Delano, California, the next town over, and we'd go to Kmart. And all my brothers and sisters, we're all entitled to get the same thing. We didn't go to a mall. We went to Kmart, and we would get 2 shirts, 2 pairs of pants, and a pair of shoes. And my go-to shoes were always that brand Tracks. It mimicked the running shoe. But you know what? That brand Tracks, they always made me the fastest kid in the playground, I thought. So that was always my go-to shoes. And so when Mr. White said, jump in here, I'm thinking, you know what? I'm not supposed to go anywhere because I can't be on the streets. But you know what? My dad's not here. I can get away with this. So I dropped that water hose, and I took off running after these high school kids. I was in the back of the pack trying to hold on. It wasn't long. We were on the country, running through dirt roads, through vineyard orchards, through grape vineyards, through cotton fields, through almond orchards. I ended up doing a 4-mile loop on the east side of town the first time I ran with Mr. White's kids. And they ran a lot further than I did because they ran to my house, picked me up. Once they dropped me off, I was the last one they picked up and the first one they dropped off 4 miles later. And those high school kids kept running, and I stopped on my driveway, and I was all sweaty, I was all hot, I was all red, trying to catch my breath. But you know what? Mr. White rode his bike up on my driveway, and he patted me on the back. And he said, good job, Thomas. I'm proud of you, son. And you know what? That made me feel good. And I told myself, you know what? I'm going to keep doing this. Maybe Mr. White will take me to Oregon someday. And as he rode off, I realized I left that water hose on. Left the water hose on. Now my yard's flooded. There's water running down the gutter. And I'm thinking, my dad's going to be upset when he sees this tonight. Because my dad's out doing this. And it didn't matter what time my dad got home, wee hours in the morning or late at night, he was still going to go to work with us, my dad would. But I panicked, so I got to, what's on the gutter and the cement, it's going to dry because it's still hot. But where there's dirt, that's mud. My dad's going to see this and he's going to be mad. And so I went to the backyard and I got dirt from the back. We didn't have grass back then. I got a shovel of dirt and started throwing it on this mud to mask it. So when my dad stumbled in the house that night, he didn't see it. And then time my dad got home, we would spread like cockroaches, my brother and sisters. So we didn't want to deal with my dad when he came home like that. And who would have to deal with them would be my dad or my mom. And it was normal in my household growing up to hear my parents argue. That was normal growing up. And it was normal for it to get physical. It was normal to hear my mom screaming at night growing up. That was normal. It was normal to go to our restroom the next morning and see bloody clothes. Those are my mom's. That was normal growing up. And it was normal to see my mom the next day and she'd have a black eye or a busted lip. I remember one time I was really young and she stuck toilet paper above her eyebrow, a laceration that she had. And thinking right now, I'm sure a laceration that she had like that, it required stitches. She didn't get any medical attention. Life went on. She healed up on her own, That was normal growing up. But you know what now? I'm going to be an 8th grader. And I know this is wrong. So I stepped in between my parents that night to keep my dad from hurting my mom that night. You know, cops came to the house all the time. And they say, hey, stop yelling, stop screaming. You guys are bothering the neighbors. They called. This particular night, they did arrest my dad. And he went away for like 2 days, came home, packed up, and he left. And he was gone. But to this day, I really believe that saved my mom's life. But now that rule, you're not going to be on the streets, it doesn't apply anymore. Because my mom was a sweetheart. We could get away with things with her. And we were making poor decisions, even me. But what kept me on track, kind of on track, was I was a part of something. Mr. White continued to pick me up. Picked me up all summer. I started 8th grade, started competing, started winning races. Mr. White starts adjusting my goals, not just in cross country, but in the classroom. He says, Thomas, let's see if you can be the best runner in the county by the end of the year. All right, Mr. White, your grades. Let's see if we can get you to that, from that 2.0 to 3.0 by the time you graduate 8th grade. All right, Mr. White. And he was on me. And I'm going to meets, I'm working out with the high school. So I've coached high school and I've coached junior high in California. You cannot train together. Back there, I don't know if there was a rule like that, but I trained with the high school. And I thought I was a man because I hung out with older kids. I could hang with the varsity runners. I looked up to them. Mr. White would tell me, you know, Thomas, the way you're going, someday you're going to have all the school records. I'm proud of you. Your name's going to be on the gymnasium wall someday. All right, Mr. White. Keep working hard, Thomas. I will. But on the team, there was guys that cut corners, guys that were negative, kids that didn't make good choices. But you know what? Those guys that made poor choices and cut corners, those guys were cool with me too. You know why? Because they had cars. They had cars, and they'd give me a ride home. They'd give me a ride home, and I appreciated it, and I thought it was cool. I was this young kid in 8th grade, getting a ride from these high school kids. Sometimes they would cruise McFarland, looking for girls, and I wanted to look for girls. But eventually, that cruising McFarland turned into them not talking to girls, to going to a store, scoring some beer, getting an adult to buy some beer for them. And it started with one day after practice. I didn't think it was a big deal. I felt I had to drink this beer because I want to fit in. I want to keep getting this ride home. I want to pretend that I'm as cool as they are in 8th grade. It was no big deal, I thought. And as the season went on, I'm winning races. Mr. White's on me. He's proud of me. Thomas, if you win the county at the end of the season, we'll go to one more meet. All right, Mr. White. One day we're after practice, and we end up cruising McFarland. They score some beer. And the next time I was out in the country, same fields we ran in, I ended up having 2. I thought I was cool. I thought I had to do this to fit in with these older guys. I didn't think it was a big deal. And as the season went on, that county meet comes. It happens one weekend, and I was the county champion. And Mr. White tells me, Thomas, I'm going to take you to one more meet. It'll be in 2 weeks. It's in Southern California, in Mission Viejo, California. It's the Southern Cal Championships. All right, Mr. White. 2 more weeks. Keep working hard for 2 more weeks. Stay on your grades. All right, Mr. White. So I was county champion on a Saturday. Come Monday, I go to school, I go to practice. I get that ride home. They score some beer. We went on the country. And that 1-2 beers, one too many. And these guys didn't know what to do with me. So they took me home. My mom opened the door. You know, my mom saw the state I was in. She's dealt with my dad for years like this. She got me by the arm, because these guys cut me loose. They got in their car and they left. She took me by the arm and she walked me down my hallway, or in our home. She took me to my room, sat me at the edge of my bed, started taking my clothes off, because it was a school night. I'm going to go to school the next day. I'm going to go to practice. Mr. White's going to take me to this meet in Southern California. But before she laid me down, she got in my face. And she says, you're going to be just like your dad. That was the last thing I remember. Woke up the next day, avoided my mom, she avoided me. Got ready for school, went to practice, came home the next day, she didn't say a word to me. And I was okay with that. A week goes by, she doesn't say a word to me. She doesn't care. No big deal. Another week goes by. Find myself in Southern California in Mission Viejo with Mr. White, and I run this 2-mile cross-country course, and I'm the Southern California champion. Now I'm the man now. I got this medal draped around my chest. Mr. White took me to that meet. I'm coming back home. We're coming back home in his 1964 Mustang, and it's him and I only that went on this trip. And we're coming back, and I remember him telling me, "Hey, Thomas, I'm going to stop and I got to pump gas, and I'm going to get some flowers for Cheryl," which is Mr. White's wife. And I remember thinking, what do I care if he gets her flowers? I'm the man. I'm still thinking about this race I just won. You know what, guys? I was really ungrateful, unappreciative what this man just did for me. He took a weekend to being with his wife and daughters to take me to this race, and I didn't appreciate it. After he pumps gas, he got back in the car, but he had 2 bouquets of flowers. He put one in the back seat, and he dropped the other bouquet in my lap. And he says, "Here, Thomas, I want you to give these to your mom." "For what, Mr. White?" "Tell me what happened 2 weeks ago. How'd you come home? Who were you with? How long has this been going on?" And I go, "Oh, no." My mom told Mr. White. And you know what, guys? I was embarrassed. And I was ashamed. Because I knew I let Mr. White down. Never once thinking for decades what I did to my mom. I don't ever remember giving her the flowers. We never ever talked about it ever again. I lost her 15 years ago. You know, what I just shared with you about that time in my life, never crossed my mind, ever. Until I was in Michigan a few years ago, and I was 48 years old. And I remembered it, and I started sharing it. And I got emotional when I shared it. Because I realized as a 48-year-old man, I broke my mom's heart that night. And I never made amends. I would hope every single one of you athletes, student athletes or students, would live your lives, never ever wanting to disappoint your parents. But my home life was so dysfunctional at the time, I didn't care. After that, Mr. White tightened the reins on me. I couldn't get in anybody's car, or anybody's car except his car or his truck. After practice, he'd take me home on Mondays, I'd wash up, and he'd take me to his house to watch Monday Night Football. On Wednesdays, he took me to church. On Fridays and Saturdays in the fall, if I wasn't at a cross-country meet, in the spring, I was at a track meet, or I was at a 5K, doing a local 5K in the area. He'd take me to a 5K on Saturdays sometimes. On Sundays, he took me to church twice, in the morning and the evenings. I ended up graduating 8th grade with that 3.0 GPA average. I ended up running all 4 years in high school. You know, I know the movie that, for those of you that watched it, it depicts that Mr. White showed up and got hired and picked out 6 boys and Danny Diaz, and he trained us for 3 months, and we won a state championship in California. That's Hollywood, guys. To accomplish something like that, it takes work, it takes effort, it takes setting goals. And when you set goals, not just in sports, when you set goals in life, sometimes there's setbacks. And I've had my setbacks in life. But I've always had somebody there to hold me accountable. When it wasn't my parents, it was Mr. White. Mr. White always held me accountable to do the right thing, to call me out when I wasn't giving it 100%. Not just in cross country, but my education and making good choices in life. You know what? Everybody deserves a Jim White. It should be our parents. But when things aren't right at home, we have your coaches, your teachers, your counselors, community members. Find that Jim White in your life. What I just shared with you today is not something that I would have shared 10 years ago when the movie came out. What changed in my life is 2 years after the movie came out, one of my teammates who was a PE teacher, actually David Diaz 10 years ago was a principal at the middle school, and it was a career day at the middle school. And they asked me to come and speak to 12 boys. And they wanted me to come in my uniform and my badge. Not because they wanted to go into law enforcement, it's because if they didn't change their ways, they were going to end up in prison. So I went there with sharing what it was like behind prison walls, what I did, when I went to college, what I did in college. I talked about my Coast Guard career and then my law enforcement career. When they were done, these boys had watched the movie, and they opened up the Q&A, and I wasn't ready for some of the questions. Here in a little bit, hopefully we'll have time for some questions. One of the boys asked me if my dad drank a lot. And without saying he was an alcoholic, I just said he did drink a lot. Next question. They asked me about the domestic violence in the movie, about my family, and I said, yeah, my parents fought a lot. I didn't use the word domestic violence. Next question. Somebody asked me about the bridge scene, if the bridge scene was true, and I said no. I said that was Hollywood, sensationalism to sell a movie, but I lied to them. I wasn't ready to talk about it. But what changed that day is 19 of these 20 boys got up and they shook my hand, because that's what they were told to do, and went out the door and went on with their lives. But I had one young boy stay back, and it says, Mr. Valles, I watched the movie, and I appreciate you being here today, but it's your character in the movie who I can relate to, because your character in the movie, your story, that's my story today. And I'll tell you, he's the first student who's ever told me that. And he hasn't been the last. And not only have I had students tell me that, I've had teachers, I've had administrators, I've had school board members, I've had janitors, I've had police officers tell me that's their story. Not that the very next time that I went out and opened up to it and spoke about everything, it's even been a healing process for me. I'll let you know what led me up to that bridge that night is I was a freshman in high school. And I just got off practice and I walked home and found my dad in the house arguing with my mom. Because both my sisters found them in a particular situation when they were 7th and 8th grade. And that was hard for me to deal with. And my intentions were to get to Mr. White's house, but I never made it. I stopped on that bridge thinking I could end this pain. My mom knew I was in distress when I left the house that night, so she called Mr. White. And the first thing Mr. White did is jumped in his 1959 Chevy pickup and started heading to the east side of town. And he found me on that bridge. And he asked me, Thomas, what's going on? And I said, you know, Mr. White, my household is a mess. My dad's over there drinking. This is what's going on with my sisters. Mr. White said, you know what, Thomas? Let's talk about this. Let's look at your attitude. You know what, Thomas, I can tell you, son, you can't control that your parents got a divorce. You can't control the situation your sister's in, but what you can control is how you react to those things. Look at the positive things you're doing. Your grades are up. In 4 years, when you graduate from McFarland High School, you're going to have the opportunity to probably run in college. You go away to college, and once you graduate college, you don't ever have to come back to McFarland. Ever. You can start a new life for yourself. And Thomas, I want to let you know that I love you and that your life matters. Mr. White let me know that night that my life mattered. I'm here to let you know that your life matters. Mr. White talked me off that bridge that night, and I'm forever grateful. I ended up graduating in high school and going on to a community college. You know, I continue to still be a daydreamer, even in high school. But, you know, I wasn't daydreaming about recess anymore. I was daydreaming of someday running for the University of Oregon to be a duck. The opportunity that I was daydreaming about running for the University of Arkansas to be a Razorback. But you know what? I wasn't that type of student. I wasn't the type of student that took those classes, that checked off the boxes to get to a four-year school, to go to Alabama. That's not the type of student I was. But my opportunity to run in college was to go to a community college. And it took me 3 years to get my AA in criminal justice. Why? Because my first year in college, I was all conference in cross country, all conference in track, but when it came down to going to classes, I gravitated towards guys that cut corners. And I partied my way out of having to drop 2 classes my freshman year in college. Found myself, so I was ineligible next year. I got a phone call, and it wasn't my mom or dad. It was Mr. White on a landline. We didn't have cell phones. Thomas, what are you doing down there? You lost sight of the goal. You're supposed to be down there getting an education and competing. I let Mr. White down again. Mr. White, I'm sorry. I'm going to make it right. I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to go to school again. I'm going to go to summer school. So I ended up making up to 2 classes during summer school. Then compete the next year. Trained with the team. Did not compete. Went back the 3rd year to finish off my eligibility and get my A in criminal justice. After that, I got a Division II scholarship. So my education continued. I went to go into Cal State University of Bakersfield, which is a Division II. It's a Division I school now. After that, after Cal State University of Bakersfield, I ended up enlisting in the United States Coast Guard, where I served 4 years, where I did maritime law enforcement and search and rescue in the San Francisco Bay. 2 years into my enlistment, I applied to work for the California Department of Corrections, the prison system of California. It took me the 2 years, on my last 2 years of enlistment, to complete all the hiring process. I got an appointment to the academy. I went to the academy, and in 1996, I started my career, my 22-year career. And in those 22 years, I worked in 3 different prisons in California. And folks, it's not lost on me that the inmate population, not just in California, but throughout the United States, those men's stories are just like mine. They come from broken homes. There's alcohol abuse. There's drug abuse. There's domestic violence. So I realized had somebody not intervened in my life, getting me to pay attention to my education, getting me to run cross country, and introducing me to Christ, I would have been an inmate instead of wearing the uniform and the badge. My brothers and sisters, they didn't find their Jim White. Their lives took them to county jail, one to state prison. They're all in a good place now, but it took them a while to get their acts together and even just get their GEDs as adults. So, you know what? Not realizing when we met Mr. White, his goal for us was never to be a champion just on a cross-country course. Was to be a champion in life. That was Mr. White's goal. And Mr. White's a God-fearing man, and he always said, put your priorities straight, guys. Put God first, your family, and my family was my teammates. They were my second family. They're my brothers today. And third, education. Put your priorities straight, guys. God first, your family, and education, and you'll be a champion in life. So thank you so much for allowing me to share with you today. We'll open it. Do we have time for Q&A? How are we looking on time? Oh, 40 minutes left. Okay. If you have any questions, just raise your hand. And believe me, there is nothing that has not been asked. There's no question that has not been asked, whether it be about me, my teammates, Mr. White, the movie, or about the Disney journey. Who's the first brave person? Go ahead, sir.
First of all, I just really liked your story and everything that was about it. It was really incredible to see where you came from and then where you are now. My question is, when was the first time you found Christ? I know Mr. White brought you to church every 2 times a Sunday, 1 time per Wednesday, but when did you really encounter Jesus Christ really affecting your life?
Right away. I would sometimes Mr. White's daughters would get ready, so it would be just me, Mr. White would drive to church, and when I go to church with them, went to the Church of Christ in the next town over, Wasco, California, and I would see when the preacher would do the altar call, and people would come and give their lives to Christ, and I kind of felt inside of me that's what I wanted to do, but I knew I was making mistakes. I wasn't perfect, and I would talk to Mr. White. Mr. White would tell me, you know what, Thomas? I'm not perfect. Getting baptized is just the first step for salvation. And I go, okay, Mr. White. And then one day, after I graduated 8th grade during the summer, Miss White wasn't at church that day. I walked up and I gave my life to Christ. And I remember we walked up to the back behind a curtain. I got in the water. I got the white smock on. And I got in the water thinking my preacher was going to baptize me. And then I saw that familiar hand on my shoulder. It was Mr. White. Mr. White baptized me before I got to high school. Thank you for the question, son. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
What were your miles like in high school?
My mile type, the fastest I ever ran a mile in high school was 4:18. 4:18 is the fastest I ever ran a mile.
We don't have no 418s in here.
And I actually broke the school record my freshman year. I ran like a 4:23 when I was a freshman. The record was 4:23, but I broke it by a few hundredths of a second, 4:23, and then I dropped it my sophomore year by like 4:20, and then my junior year I had some injuries, so I ended up going to the 3,200, didn't concentrate on the mile, and then I set it my senior 4:18, and it only lasted 1 year because I graduated. Johnny San Diego was a sophomore that year I set it. Him as a junior, he broke it his junior year. 4:16, and then the school record now is 4:14. So Johnny held the school record longer than I did.
Hey, what was your 5K time?
5K, 15:12 was my fastest time. Fastest 5K, 15 minutes, 12 seconds. There's a young lady right there.
Was there ever a time where you lost motivation to keep running or just lose interest, or you always had a passion for it?
You know what? That passion's always there, just the youth side of it's not there. I'm very proud of myself that I ran 2 miles, and that was good for me today. I signed up for a marathon over a year ago. Well, not a year ago, but I'm going to do San Antonio Marathon. When I signed up for it, it was in January, and so I knew I had almost a year to get ready for it because it's in December. During the summer, I realized I only had 6 months left. Right now, I realize I only have 2 months left. So, but I ran Boston, not Boston, I ran New York. I was a guest at the 50th annual Boston, or New York City Marathon for the 50th annual. So I was a guest at that, and I was able to do that. And I've only ran 2 marathons in my life. That was one. And really, I stopped a lot, and I took pictures and videos. It was just an experience. When I was 31, I ran 2 hours and 58 minutes at Cal International to get a Boston qualifier, and I was under it by like 6 or 7 minutes. But once I finished that one, I told myself I'd never do one again. Yes, sir. Let's go with Rich.
So what has been your hardest workout throughout the years?
Hardest workout? I think the hardest workout were the intervals. Mr. White was big on mile repeats. So Mr. White's got his philosophy of training from Coach Newton from York and Coach Behill from Adams State. And so Coach Behill was big on VO2 work, which is mile repeats. So I remember doing a set of 4 mile repeats. I ran up, 2 weeks after that, I ended up running 14 minutes, 37 seconds on a 3 mile course. And that's my fastest 3 mile I ever ran. 14 minutes, 37 seconds. And I did it almost 10 days before I did 4 mile repeats. And I started off at the first one with a 4:45, and then 4:38, and then 4:32. And I finished off the last one in 4:28 for my last mile repeat. And that was the toughest workout I've ever done. And the one that I'm most proud of, probably.
Somebody right back here, get your hand up.
Horatio.
Do I look like Danny Diaz?
Do you run cross country? Yeah. You know what, guys? Every cross country team in the nation has a Danny Diaz. And you know what? Here, let me share a quote that not Danny, his older brother David, because we've spoken together before, different convocations to educators and stuff. And David Diaz said it the best one time. You know what? In life, not everybody's going to win a race in life. And we're not just talking about not everybody's going to be the best in everything, but everybody can be a Danny Diaz. As long as you, whatever your goals are, is to challenge yourself like a Danny Diaz did that day for us. So everybody can be a Danny Diaz.
We had a Danny Diaz about 5 or 6 years ago, right?
I think you're like the third person that's Danny Diaz here today, so.
I was gonna ask if at y'all's state meet qualifier your senior year, did y'all actually place fourth at that, or was that just for?
That, that was way off. We won our regional, well, not regional, our section. Our sections qualifies for state. No, that was the first section championship we've ever won. It was that year. We were always kind of the best teams in the county. So Mr. White didn't just show up that year. Mr. White actually started the team in 1980. So 7 years prior for us winning state, but there was no state championships then. In 86, Mr. White gave us information. They were talking about being a state championship in 97. So we started in 87. So we started setting goals, how we were going to accomplish that. We were already the best team in the county for several years in a row, and then our goal was to win. But when we do our sectionals, there was no small, medium, or large schools. There was no divisions 1 through 3 like we had. Or now there's 5 divisions, 1 through 5. How many divisions are in Alabama? 7. So in California, there's 5. When we won state, there was 3. And there was large schools division, medium, and then small. And we were small. And we were actually the first state championship team ever to be crowned in California.
What is the student population in McFarland?
Oh, we're like at 1,000 now. So when I first moved to McFarland, when I was in 4th grade, the population was 2,000. Not the students, the town. By the time I graduated high school, we were at 4,000. And then in 2005, or before 2005, the housing boom, a lot of homes were built in McFarland, so we're like at 16,000 right now.
Besides the mile, what events did you do for track?
I did the 800, I did the 3,200. I was always on the mile relay team.
What's your 400 time?
In the open 400, I ran it a few times my senior year. I mean, I did it before, but my fastest was 42.2 in league, and I got second. But in the open relay, I always ran 50s, 51s in a relay. And the 800, my best time ever in high school and in college, 158.
Danny Diaz has a question.
What was your 800 time?
1 minute, 58 seconds.
I've got a good question. Did you actually date Coach White's daughter?
Is there any other questions back there? So,
Made him uncomfortable.
they don't show anything in the movie. They suggest something. What's the acronym? Public Affairs Affection or something? What's that acronym? Yeah, I think they showed that in the movie. They don't show anything else. But they do suggest something, and it's left up to the imagination. And some people have bigger imaginations than others. And so, if you Google McFarland USA, the top things that people Google about McFarland USA, did Thomas Valles marry Julie White? Or who did Julie White marry? So, let me share this. Mr. White actually has 3 daughters. They only show 2. So, when I graduated 8th grade from McFarland Middle School, or junior high, Julie graduated from McFarland High School and followed her older sister Tammy, who's not depicted in the movie, to Lubbock Christian College. Now Jamie, who they portrayed very young in the movie, she's actually 2 years older than I am. And so I was a freshman, sophomore, she was a junior, senior, and we were together on the down low for 2 years. And then she graduated McFarland High School and followed her 2 older sisters, and she met somebody over there, got married, and lived happily ever after. So she says. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, guys. Hey, so, now, I've been asked this in front of Mr. White, in an auditorium, with Mr. White's hand holding the mic, and they asked, did your daughter really date Thomas? And his answer was, I'm going to let Thomas answer that. And I'm standing by, and he gave me the mic. And so what I'd like to say is I took the political way out. And I said, no, that's Hollywood. But I said Jamie and I should have said Julie like in the movie, but I said Jamie and I were more like brothers and sisters. Now, I speak with some of my teammates sometimes. And when I say that we were more like brothers and sisters, one of them will take away the mic and they'll say, that's not true either. They were more like kissing cousins.
Is that a South reference?
I got it, Coach. The movie depicted that a lot of your teammates stayed in McFarland at the end, correct? Is that the case?
Yes, the only one that's not there is Jose Cardenas. He's in the United States Army, not yet Army. My third year at the community college, he was a freshman, so we ran the community college together. And then when I left to Cal State University Bakersfield, he stayed around one more year. Then he transferred to Humboldt. He got a degree in journalism, and then he wrote for the LA Times for like 3 years. And then he enlisted in the Army. He's been in the Army ever since, over 20 years. He's made a career out of it. And he's the only one that does not live in McFarland. Any other questions?
So kind of follow up to that question. Like, what led you to decide to return to McFarland and stay there?
You know what? I went away to college, went away to the Coast Guard, and then I was stationed somewhere else when I was in my first prison. But I found myself coming back. We ended up buying a house in McFarland, my wife and I. My wife's from McFarland. She's a teacher. I saw my teammates were working in the school, and I wanted to coach, so I coached at McFarland High School. I was the varsity girls coach for 8 years, and then before that, I coached in junior high, and then before that, I ran the McFarland Track Club for 20 years. The track club that I ran for Mr. White in 8th grade, that took me to Eugene, Oregon, when I graduated 8th grade. Mr. White fulfilled that promise. And what's pretty cool is I remember when we went, we ran on this trail of wood chips, and it was called the Prefontaine Trail. So you guys know who Steve Prefontaine is, right? Somebody we lost 50 years ago, 1975, after placing fourth in the Munich Olympics. And so he's a legend. Just 2 weeks ago, I spoke at Marshfield High School. I was an honorary guest for their 50th annual memorial 10K race. So I ran that 10K race 2 weeks ago. I spoke at Marshfield High School, and I spoke at their local community college. The local community college is who booked me to speak there, and they added me speaking at Marshfield High School to the high school that Steve Prefontaine ran at. So I get to meet his sister, and I have her on social media, so I've talked to her before. But that was like a huge privilege for me to be there. And they ended up showing the movie, McFarland USA, that night in the local theater, and then they had a Q&A, kind of like this. I didn't do my spiel. All I did is did a Q&A, and that was 2 weeks ago.
So who did you most look up to on your cross-country team when you first joined, and why?
One more time, sorry.
Who did you first look up to on the cross-country team when you joined, and why?
You know what? Probably the varsity, the team that I was on. There was other kids that had ran some more experience than me, and I saw that. I mean, they weren't winning the races, but they were always very competitive. But when I first started running, I started winning races right away, and that's because I would work out with the high school guys, and I really challenged myself. I was a workhorse because I wanted to go to Oregon, and I thought the only way I was going to go to Oregon if I worked extremely hard. And I kind of felt nobody was going to outwork me, and that was my attitude all through high school and in junior high is nobody was going to outwork me. I probably overtrained sometimes because of it, but it's okay. I'm glad with what I did accomplish in high school and in junior high.
Was there ever like a race that you wanted to quit, like mid-race?
You know what? For those of you that run cross country, in anything, whatever sport we do, you're going to hear that little voice to tell you to slow down, to quit. I'm hurting too much. Does it really matter if I just keep giving it 100%? You know what? Sometimes we are our biggest competitors. Not the other team, it's yourself. And so when you hear those little voices, you can't let them win. You got to come back to the other side and says, no, I'm not going to let my coach down. I'm not going to let my team down. I'm not going to let my school down. I'm not going to let my community down, because we're going to represent our community. And every runner probably goes through this. I can tell you right now, there's a cross-country course on the coast of California that Mr. White would take us, and it was in sand, and there was acorns and sticks and stuff. And I remember being competitive and winning this race. I won it 4 years in a row. But there was time, I wouldn't leave everybody behind. They were around me. And I remember thinking, what would creep up in my mind, I would say, hey, that stick right there. If I was to trip over that stick and go down, and so what if I finished 4th or 5th? I mean, if I fall down over that stick, then it's an excuse why I finished 4th or 5th because I tripped on that stick. I ended up going to community college, and when Johnny Samaniego caught me, I told him how it felt at that course. And Johnny told me, you know what? I think the same thing. That what if, those little excuses do come up. You want to quit, you want to slow down because you're hurting, right? But you got to combat that negativity with the positive, guys. And you got to come out on top every time. Don't let yourself defeat yourself, okay?
Do you have any tips for someone who's getting back into running?
You know what? Stay consistent. And you got to want to do it for you. Don't do it because your parents want you to do it. Don't do it just because your coach is always calling you. You know what? You know how I said that Mr. White used to pick up all his runners? He used to ride around and knock on kids' doors. Come on, let's go, let's go. And they'd, oh, come on, Mr. White. And he'd get them to run, and then it would be like a snowball effect. And eventually, when I got to high school, he didn't have to pick up anybody. We would go to 316 Cliff Street, and we would wait for Mr. White to come out his front door to tell us we were going to run 8 miles, 10 miles. And I remember that was included in an article one time. He said, you know what, this is the first group of guys, first group of runners that I don't have to go hunt them down. They just show up at the house. And that became a tradition. And that's like the greatest thing. So even this movie, it wasn't originally going to be about my team. The idea came like 10 years later, 10 years after I graduated high school. Me and my teammates, the Diaz brothers and Johnson, we were young in our careers, either working in law enforcement or teaching. These boys, these new group of high school kids would show up to Mr. White for him to come out and anticipate him coming out and telling him to run 8, 10 miles. Well, guess who was out there with him? Thomas Valles, Johnny Samaniego, David Diaz, Ahmed Rayon, who's the boys coach now. He's not in the movie because he graduated the year before. But we, the alumni, we were out there. We were and all we were trying to do is encourage these kids, because some of these kids were they were struggling with some of the struggles that we went through growing up. Education, the language barrier, and we just wanted that there was opportunities for whether some of them had trouble passing the English exam to graduate high school. And I thought, you know what? All is not lost. You know what? You can still go to community college. Maybe you go to the armed services. Maybe you get a trade. You don't have to go to a 4-year school. Maybe you go to community college. And so we just want to let kids know that there's other options. And whatever education, whatever trade you go into, come back to our community and give back. And so that's all we've ever been trying to do. And you know, Mr. White took care of us for many years. Now we take care of him. He's 84 years old. My brother's my barber, and I take him to my brother. He cuts his hair. I mow his lawn every week. We lost Mrs. White this last November, and so we're there for Mr. White. We take him food, and we take him out to eat. We're there for Mr. White, and we love Mr. White.
So in the movie, and in the thing, Coach White had him running after you guys and had him stop at the store and get a Coca-Cola. So him and the store owner in the movie seemed like they had a very good relationship. Did they really have that relationship in the whole group? shut down and come to that state meet like the movie depicts?
Yes, that's what really happened. But it's a different. They don't use the actual person's name in the movie. There's an actual person the actual person that passed away. Actually, he passed away after the movie came out.
In the movie, there was this one scene during a workout where you guys are running over the hills and stuff, and then your character, or I guess you, breaks down in front of the whole team.
Like an anger management problem or something?
What the heck?
Yeah, you know what? I've been told I have that by my wife and some friends at work, some coworkers. You know what? My friends at work told me I had an anger management problem after the movie came out. They say that movie was right. You have an anger management problem. You know what? I'm a very quiet person. I like to keep to myself, but when things bother me, I kind of just keep them down. And when I blow up, I blow up. And my kids have seen me do that. My wife has seen me do that. But never to where it gets out of control. Because I remember the way my dad was with my mom. And so I don't want anybody to think that it gets that out of hand. Never has. But growing up in the environment with my dad, I know it makes me a better father and a better husband because of the way my dad was. So in practice it never happened. But I think the reason they got that is because I believe my mom probably shared something that happened in our house and was like something like that. And so they put it into like a workout day where I grew up. Yes.
Thank you.
For your first race, what was your time?
My first race, I don't even remember. I was in junior high. I remember. I remember one race that sticks out. You know, everybody about the beach scene. So my first time ever seeing the beach was, you know, that race I told you that I won 4 years in a row when I was in high school. It's called the Santa Maria Invitational. So I won it all 4 years in high school. I also won it when I was an 8th grader. So Mr. White took his team to that meet, the Santa Maria Invitational, and there was a junior high division, and I ran the junior high division. And after we ran this meet, Mr. White took us to, it was either Avila Beach or Morro Bay. And for me, that was the first time me ever seeing the beach. And so Mr. White, running cross country and running for Mr. White, gave me and my teammates opportunities that we didn't have growing up with our parents. He was the first one to take us bowling, to go miniature golfing, to go to a restaurant where there was like 2 forks and 2 spoons. And well, I'm still trying to figure out which one's which, but yeah. But he gave us a lot of first opportunities to go to the movies.
In the movie, a scene where y'all had a quinceañera for Mr. White's daughter. Did that really happen?
It did, but it wasn't a quinceañera. It was a sweet 16. So I remember it was in his backyard, and they had these tables with white cloths on them. And the team was the first one to get there. And I remember, you know, I distinctly remember there was these tiers, you know, those things you put food on, like they're hors d'oeuvres, right? Me and my teammates had never seen anything like that, just in movies or whatever. And so what we described what was on these tiered things, a sandwich cut into 4, a hot dog cut into 3, and so I was trying to piece together a whole sandwich. Johnny was trying to piece together a whole hot dog, and Mr. White comes out and says, guys, those are bigger foods. Just get 1 or 2. We got tri-tip that's going to be out in a little bit. That's the main course, the tri-tip. Sorry about that, guys.
You got excited over talking about food.
After the party, did you guys actually get in a crash with those other people?
So it's referred to as the knife scene. That did happen with us, but the script writers were aware of the drive-bys gang activity in McFarland. We have a teammate who he didn't run cross country, he ran track, but he played football. He's a great kid, very smart, but he toiled in that gang life. Very smart young man, but he was stabbed, I think, my freshman year, his sophomore year, and so that was included in an article one time. So they used that scene to kind of reflect the violence that has happened in the past in McFarland, and so that's why they created that scene.
Were you hard on yourself during races, or did you ever struggle with disappointment with your times?
You know what? I was never satisfied. Now I wish I could run close to that, but I can't. And so, and you know, that's okay. We sometimes when we compete, we can tell ourselves we're not satisfied. It's not till you get older, and please don't be in a hurry to get older, that you'll appreciate the things that you've accomplished in your life. You know, sometimes we fall short. I never made it to state in track. Missed it by 1 my senior year in the mile. I wanted to make it to state in the mile, and I missed it by 1. Never made it to track, but you know, I did give everything I could with what I had. And I have no regrets.
If you could go back and change anything from your high school years, would you, or would you leave it all the same?
Oh, definitely would. I mean, I had a lot of fun in high school, but you know, I would. Was I delinquent a little bit in high school? I was. Did I procrastinate? I did. Just, you know, in life, I think I would try to, anything in life, I would try to avoid the procrastinating on certain decisions or certain things in life. That's what I would do different.
If you got discriminated, how did you handle that?
You know, I know the movie is a lot tougher than what in reality what it was. You know what? My town is no different now. It's predominantly Hispanic, and we were very proud to represent our communities. And Mr. White always had us in check. You know, we'd go to McDonald's. If he took us to McDonald's and we acted up, Mr. White would say, "Hey guys, remember where you guys are from? I mean, look what it says on your shirt. Oh, it says McFarland." It says, "I don't want to get a phone call. I want the principal to get a phone call saying how great your athletes were." And people would. People would call the high school and say, "Hey, you know what? I just want to let you know that I was at a restaurant and I saw it was a cross-country team, and I just want to let you know that how well they were behaved while we were there." And you know, and it worked out for us then. But because I'm sure there was days that we didn't act right, and Mr. White would get on us. "Hey guys, remember where you guys come from, and remember you're wearing that your hometown on your chest. You know, represent the school the best you can." And so yeah, you know what? We were always proud to compete against anybody, and we did get a lot of respect from other teams. So, thank you for your question.
What are some advice that you would give an athlete to stay disciplined, and what really motivated you to stay disciplined?
You know, hold yourself accountable, hold your teammates accountable. You know what? In any sport, working hard is contagious. You're an example. Just like you're an example, if you have younger brothers and sisters, if you're doing your best in school, doing your best in whatever sport you're doing, you're an example for the next generation. And just like the guys that I looked up to, the guys who were positive, the guys that did good grades, and I looked up to those guys. When I got to high school, I became that guy. Guys like Johnny San Diego and Tomas Meditas, my teammates, because they were 2 years behind me, they looked up to me. And then when I left, they became that. And so, but when there's negativity on the team, when there's division, that's contagious also. So try to be committed to be there for each other. Hold yourselves accountable.
We got 6 or 7 minutes. No joke. Questions?
What advice would you give someone that's starting to lose the love of running they first had when they first started?
You know what, if you're committed to just to finish off your high school career running. I mean, whether you're a freshman or sophomore, hang on for your junior and senior, and just have fun. You know what, again, not everybody's going to win a race, not everybody's going to make the varsity team, but that varsity team is pushed by the kids that are, whether they JV or frost off. You know what, those kids work hard too, and those kids will make those varsity kids continue to work, as long as the kids that are not on the varsity can enjoy it. So remember, you're an example. So don't give up on yourself. Don't ever give up on yourself. And you know, if you're committed to start something, finish it. And not just a sport, in anything in life. Because remember, when you go on a job interview, they're going to ask you, you know, did you do any sports, or what did you work in anything else? Well, no, I quit. And you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you get the best opportunities in life, and so never quit anything you start. Any other questions?
So you said you made it to state. I mean, you didn't make it to state in track. Who was the fastest person you ever raced in the mile?
The fastest person I ever raced in the mile. In high school, I'm trying to think here. Probably the fastest milers that I ever raced against were probably my sophomore year, when I ran a 4:23. And in the section meet trying to get to state, the winners were like 4:16, 4:17. And these are guys that, one of them I finished second to qualify for this section, right, in my area. My sophomore year, I finished second to him. He was a senior, I was a sophomore. And I thought I was going to, you know, if he's going to make it to state, I'm going to make it to state. But he had the race of his life. He ended up running a 4:16, but he was also a 150, 1/2 mile also. Danny. I'm sorry?
Who was your rival?
Well, you know, Clovis High School that they depict in the movie, we never beat them ever when I was in high school until my senior year. And so that's why they're the team that was selected either day. I remember their #1 runner who ended up running for Fresno State. His name was Jason Ledell. He's in the same school district. He's a coach at Clovis North. And I remember, I don't know where I got it. You know those it's like a target, like a dartboard? I didn't have the dart, so I just had the dartboard. But I had an article, and I cut out his picture, and I put that. So that was my goal board. And I graduated in '88, and I remember I made a model. You know, my senior year for cross country, our team motto was to the top. In track, my senior year, my goal was to 1988 when I graduated. I wanted to have an Olympic year performance, and all I wanted to do was break 4:20 in the mile, and I ended up running 4:18. And so just I always came up with some, I don't know if they were corny, but phrases that worked for me. And then plus putting Jason Ledell's picture on there, make it a goal to, you know, in any, whatever, if you have some success in any sport, there's always a target on your back, guys. You know, people are gunning for you. When you have success, people are always looking to dethrone you. Just no different than I was. I wanted to dethrone the best runners. We wanted to dethrone the best teams, and no different than other teams. Their attitude towards us, they wanted to dethrone us.
All right, we got time for one more question.
Did your parents support you when you ran cross country and track, and did they go to your meets?
They did support me by telling me, "Hey, Mijo, good luck with the race." But it's, you know, it's Hollywood. It's kind of, I mean, it's tough. If you watch the movie, at the end, they show my mom and dad at the state meet. That is Hollywood. My parents never saw me run in junior high, high school, never in college, not post-collegiate. My parents never saw me run. And I remember 1998, that good team, 10 years after we won state, I went with Johnny San Diego to North Carolina to run the Great American Cross Country Invitational with Mr. White's high school team. We went to go watch them run. They won that thing in 1998. They won the whole thing. And I remember there was other teams from California. And you know, those teams, they had their parents there. Our parents couldn't make a trip like that. But Johnny and I were there for them. And I remember telling Mr. White, my kid ever gets an opportunity to do something like this, I'm going to be there for him. No, it was not fault of the parents. It just they didn't have, economically, there's no way they were going to fly to North Carolina. And so when I took over the McFarland Track Club and ran it for 20 years, I made it a point to take my kids to an experience that they're not going to have if they don't run this sport. And I remember when I coached the high school, I took my high school girls to run in Hawaii. I took my girls to go run at South Lake Carroll in Texas. I took them to run in Boise, Idaho for the Bob Berman Invitational. And our athletic director at the time, he made some phone calls to some big school districts like Clovis and asked them if they go out of state to compete. And the athletic director said, you know, their response was no, that there's enough competition here in California, we don't have to go out of state. And so he said he didn't see no reason for me to take my team to out of state. And I told him, you know what? Call them back and ask them if their girls went on vacation somewhere. And they probably did. And then ask my girls if they went on vacation somewhere. Their responses would be no. So I'm going to keep taking them out of state because that's what I want to do. I want them to experience something different than just California. Thank you so much. God bless you tonight. So I don't know how much time we have available for the lobby, but I'm going to be in the lobby. I'll take pictures. I will sign anything but skin. And I do have some merchandise for sale if you're interested. I have posters, and this poster is a copy of an original. Mr. White owns the original. It's framed up in his house in McFarland, but it has Mr. White's signature, it has Kevin Costner's, it has my signature, it has Carlos Pratt's signature, who plays me, has Danny Diaz, has Ramiro Rodriguez, who plays Danny. And for those of you that are familiar with the group Juanes, he signs it with love from Juanes, which he sings the theme song called Juntos for the movie. Thank you so much.
All right, all ready? 3.
They are so off center.
All right, y'all, just like